What's up, guys? Four-wheeler Doctor back again. Hey, y'all hit that subscribe button. Actually, I think it might be down here or here. I can't remember which side, but hit the subscribe button. I need to get my subscriber count out. Not out. Look at there. Got me some new shirts. Got them on the back. Oh yeah, we're ready now. Well, today we're going to be working on a Kawasaki Mule 3010. This is a 2006 model. Got some wheel bearing issues, a little wobbling on the back, and these things are real tough to get apart. I've done some stuff like this. I actually changed the universal joints on one of these not too terribly long ago and tried some kind of different stuff and made it work. There's numerous ways online to show how to do these. People grinding stuff and doing all kind of crazy stuff to them, but I think I figured out a pretty good way to do it, and I'm going to try to do it on this one. So to start off with, we're going to take the tires off. These are 17 millimeter lug nuts on there, and we've got some 14 millimeter shock bolts. We're just going to remove this top bolt as well as these leaf spring bolts. I think they're also 17 millimeter, 14 millimeter here, 17s here. The rear leaf as well as the front leaf. We're going to do that on both sides. And what my plan here is to take and these joints, to get these things out, you have to remove the bolts here on this flange, because the joint or the axle actually has a snap ring on the end of it that will not slide out of the universal like most ATVs. But you have to remove those, pull this over. It's just a mess. You barely got enough room to do it. What I've done in the past, there is a slip joint here in between the two universals that you can take and put a bottle jack in here between this frame piece and take a board and run across your leaf spring, your bump stop mount, and your other leaf spring, and push this over far enough to get the joint over here compressed up and this one to separate out. Once you get this one separated out, then you slide it the other direction, get this one to separate out, and this whole piece right here will come off, this cross member piece. And this cross member piece is what houses the wheel bearings. So this is what we got to get off this thing here. This is just a crazy suspension design. I don't really understand why they have all this like this, but they do. So I guess it's, I don't know, kind of a modified independent rear suspension or something. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But anyway, I'm gonna get all this stuff loosened up, wheels off, and I will cut the camera back on once I get the jack jammed up in here and get ready to press it over. Alright guys, I got all these out. These two brackets here, they have a bolt runs in, goes in one direction and it comes out the other. You loosen both of those nuts off and the little bracket there will come right off. I also went ahead and loosened up the axle nuts, because we're going to have to take those axle nuts out in order to get the wheel bearings out too, and probably going to end up having to do something with that brake, the back behind the brake there, or at least get the brake drum off so we can get in there and get to the axles. What you want to do is, I got a jack under the back of it there just holding it up. Do have it on jack stands, but we need to drop this suspension arm thing down to get the front mounts below the frame brackets so that it will actually move over. So that's what I'm going to do now, and then I'll probably going to stick a 4x4 piece of wood in between here and put a bottle jack on it and see if we can get this thing to slide over. So let me get the jack let down a little bit so we can let the leaf spring clear this mount, and then I'll get the jack jammed in there and cut the camera back on. Alright guys, here's what I got rigged up here. This jack is a little bit taller than the other jack I'd used in the past, so the piece of wood wouldn't work, so I just stuck it against the leaf spring here, and I had to flip the thing around backwards so that the oil would actually be at the bottom and the jack would actually pump up. So what you do, I slid this boot back, and you can see you got a good bit of shaft showing, or spline shaft. You just want to push that out until the axle pulls out, and see it's compressing this side down. Move my feet out of the way in case this jack falls out of here. It won't crush my toes. there you go. So see, the axle fell out. And then, I'm not sure how hard this thing's going to be to get out of here. But ideally, what you could do, I'm going to have to tap that out. Alright, got that tapped out. It didn't go all the way, so I'm going to have to slide this brake drum off, tap this thing just a little bit more. It's pretty loose there. Alright, and then your axle shaft here, there's a spacer there. Your axle shaft will slide right out. Alright, so you let your jack go, and you may be able to get it to slide over enough to get the other side out. Otherwise, you can do the exact same thing over there. Jam the jack in there and push the other side out the other way. Naturally, you'll have a whole lot more movement over there because you don't have a axle shaft to restrict you. So pull that side out, and then we're gonna see what we're gonna take. I'll go ahead and do that side, but then we'll see what it's gonna take to get the bearing. There are bearings right there. So we are gonna have to take the brake panel off, but see what it's gonna take to get that bearing out of there. So let me get the other side done. I'll cut the camera back on in a sec. Alright guys, I pulled the brake panel off just to give me a little bit more room to work, because I'm not real sure how I'm gonna get this thing out of here. I did have to pull a pin out of here. It's got a little cotter pin on it for the emergency brake cable, and then I also pulled this clip up here for this brake line to give it a little more movement so I could get it over out of the way. Okay, so there's our bearing. This is not going to be a real easy task because this bearing has to actually go out from the inside, so it's got to be pressed out from this way, and then a new one will have to come in from the back side. There is a snap ring on the back side of it. Let's see if I can get under here and show it to you. Snap ring. Let's see if you can be able to see that or not. The end of the snap ring is up in about a, see, I can wipe it off with my finger so you can see it, but about at the 11 o'clock position there. So we're going to get some snap ring pliers. Hopefully I can get them in there and grab a hold of that thing. You can kind of see the hole in the one side of the snap ring there. The other side is down here, kind of dirty. So I'll get that snap ring out, and then we're going to have to rig up some way to press this thing out of here. Probably I'm going to use a piece of threaded rod and some sockets and a nut, just a couple nuts, just to slide it in and out. Hopefully that'll work. Sometimes stuff like this goes a lot better in my head than it does once you get out there and do it. So we're going to give it a shot. I actually, like I said, I tore apart a couple of these before, but I have never changed a wheel bearing on it. So I've done the universals and all sorts of stuff, fuel pump issues and all that on these things, but I've never done a bearing. So we're going to kind of learn as we go, but I'm pretty sure I'm barking up the right tree, and I think this is going to work. So let me grab snap ring pliers, get the snap ring off, and then I will see if I can get me some sockets that will fit around that bearing, and then one to press from the other side, and a piece of threaded rod. I'll cut the camera back on once I get my pressing apparatus rigged up. Alright guys, don't laugh at my ingenuity, but what we're going to do here to get these things out, I've got a piece of threaded rod. It's like about maybe 3/4 of an inch or something like that. Really anything over 1/4 of an inch would probably work to press these out. You just want something pretty good size so you don't break it. I couldn't find real good nuts to fit on here, so I jammed 2 nuts on here. I know that's a Castle nut, but that's all I had. So jam those on there with a big washer, and I'm going to take some more of these 3/4 inch drive sockets that I've got and use these to press this out with. This is a 2 inch 3/4 inch drive, and then I'm also going to use a 1 1/16. That's just the first one in my set that's got the big hole in it. So we're going to put the 2 inch up inside the whatever you want to call this thing, suspension arm, whatever you want. So it's going to be on the inside, and then I'm going to slide this one on the outside, and I made sure I got a socket that would fit on the inner race of this bearing to press it out. And I did get that snap ring out. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, if you don't have patience, you might better take this to somebody else, because that thing was tough to get out of there. I ended up having to, it just wouldn't pull out with my snap ring pliers. Ended up taking some with a 90 and sticking them up in this little gap right in the very bottom here, gap right here, and sticking them up in there, and ended up getting it out like that. So it was tough. It took me 10 minutes to get that one snap ring out. So let me get this threaded rod thing rigged up in here, and I'll see if I can show you how you press this thing out of here. Alright, cut the camera on this side. Alright guys, so I got this thing tightened up on here. Got a washer here actually 2 washers here at the socket, and ratchet wrench is about the easiest way to get this off. I did have to put a ratchet holding the other side to keep it from spinning, but you just work this thing now, and it's actually sliding out of there. So keep going like this till you get it pressed all the way out, and then you'll just do the reverse to get it to come back in the other direction. So let me get this worked out, and I'll probably cut the camera back on just to show you what it's going to look like when we go to press the new one back in. Guys, I tried that pulling that bearing out of there with the threaded rod, and it ended up pulling the threads off the threaded rod. So it's in there pretty tight. So I resorted to the old caveman method of beating it out. Took a 1/16 socket and extension. You actually don't even have to take the brake off using this method, and knock this thing out of there. And then I know this is not normally how I do things, but I also beat the other one back in. I found a socket. This one here is 1.5 inches, and it fit perfect in the hole that the bearing goes into. When I say perfect, I mean it was dead on. So we're actually pressing against the outer race. I'll try to find this old bearing. Here's the old bearing, just to give you a comparison. It is perfect, the same size. So when you tap this in, the big fear with beating bearings in, for one thing, is you getting off and getting down into the balls. Well, that really doesn't happen in this case, but this presses on the outside. That really doesn't hurt anything because you're not pressing against the balls of the bearing, and it taps it right in there. So these are in pretty tight too, so you got to beat on them a good little bit, and that's how I end up getting it out. And it's a little bit quicker because you don't have to take your brake off as I did on the other side. So I guess you can go both methods, but I think the beating method is going to be the best one in this case. Alright guys, well, I believe this is going to be the end of this video. Pretty much just bolt the thing back together, which is pretty simple. Do have to put the jack back in there to slide it one way, put the axle in, slide it the other way, you know, just like you took it apart. So hit the like button, subscribe. Probably won't have any other videos of this thing on here because I don't work on many of these, but I will have another video coming up here in the next day or so of brute force motor. I'm getting back together. Alright, y'all have a good day. Alright guys, one more thing on this. I've been struggling with this for a minute, but make sure when you go to push these things back in, make sure that your axle is pushed all the way in here, because if not, naturally it won't fit in there going back in. So I was just trying to get this in there, and my axle was nowhere near close to being over far enough to get in here, and I didn't realize it, but I needed to tap this in with a hammer to get it seated all the way in the bearing here so that I could get it back on. Just trying to save you guys some time because I'm sure enough sweating over here trying to do it. So, alright, there again, have a good day.